taught a couple other instruments as well, but typically it's just been mandolin, guitar, and now I'm just doing mandolin since I can pick and choose that, now that everyone's taking lessons from all over.
Pick and choose.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I have a student, one student in Canada. It's actually the closest to me, which is weird since I'm in Washington now.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then I've got, Texas, Georgia. Yeah,
Look at
which
you.
makes it, yeah, that's kind of interesting.
What kind of branding do you have on your teaching empire right now? Is it like, a Wolf Howlin' at the Moon logo and Aaron Wolf music, or what kind of thing is this?
Yeah, Erin Wolf music. Yeah, I've got I put up a Wix site, so it's like a website. It's a free one. I don't have a logo. I had an old one when it was Aaron Patterson. I had an old logo, kind of.
But
I'll need to, I
if
should make
listeners
one
want to
up.
learn how to play mandolin for sure, but you play a lot of other stuff, then they can go looking for Aaron Wolf music.
Yes, yeah, and I'm on Facebook as well. I've got a Facebook page. I did a little series of videos.
Yeah, I watched some of them. Really good
A
practice
few months
tips.
back. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, things that I learned from my teachers and from pipe bands. That was like the one about like color coding a tune.
Yeah.
That was a pipe band when I walk in and I had a friend that's like, oh, here's my sheet music. This is what I do. I'm like, oh, that's genius, because a lot of tunes, a lot of pipe tunes have a similar structure as like bluegrass tunes. I noticed, A part, B part kind of thing, and kind of like where it has like like question answer kind of a thing. So you have, when you're learning a tune, you aren't, not every measure is going to be a brand new measure. You're going to have a lot of repetition, and which is nice when you're memorizing. And that's what I like memorizing more than just sight reading. I'm not a big sight reader. So if I can memorize it and it makes it easier, if there's a lot of like repetition, themes that are easy to recall,
Right.
that helps.
Yeah, I don't know to what degree it's like different people's brains work differently, or just where you put your effort or whatever, but I've always been a pretty clunky sight reader, and like even when I was a little kid, just like learning to play piano and stuff, I didn't think that I'd learned something like a tune, a song, until I could play it without the music, because that's the only time that I feel like I could actually play it.
Yeah, me too. That's the time where once it's in your fingers and you're not, I feel like it's like minimizing distraction. So if you're not having to look at the sheet music, even though it can be like a helpful like reminder, like, oh, that's what's coming up, like that. Usually I'll use sheet music for that if the piece is long enough to kind of need a reminder of what the next part is, or you still want to, full memorization is nice, because then you can just kind of feel the music, interpret it how you want it to sound, really get into it and just enjoy it, like be in the flow.
Yeah, the flow state, right?
Flow state, like on Soul.
Right.
The Pixar movie. That movie. I don't know, I just love that, where, he's just sitting down playing and he's just like, just getting into it. I'm like, yeah. And it was actually funny watching the movie where he, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie yet, but where he thinks the purpose, like his purpose of life, why he's there on Earth is to play music. And going through the movie, I'm like, yeah, that's the purpose. And I was all like, yep, that's what his spark is. That's his purpose. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, wait, that was really shallow of me. Dang it, I got it wrong.
Yeah, this was teaching me a lesson. Oh, no.
Ah, no. But it was a good lesson, because it was, like, very applicable. It's like, oh, music, yeah, performing. Oh, yeah, that's my thing. I just love that. So it was a good reminder of, like, those are things that bring us happiness and joy and enriched our lives. But there's a lot more to life than just being on a stage and just nailing a solo.
and I've done a lot less of that than you have, but still, for me, I don't know if you felt this way, but for me, I felt like it was somewhat a humbling experience as somebody who does kind of aspire to that, to that being my purpose. I want to be known as a music man, you know, and then it's like, oh, you're right. There are a lot of other things to focus on that really bring deeper joy.
Yeah, that was true.
Darn you, Pixar, teaching me lessons.
Dang it.
So, and of course, this isn't meant to be like a movie critic podcast, of course, but I'll delve off onto this little tangent here. I'm curious what you thought. Personally, I actually was a little disappointed by the ending when he got a second chance. I kind of thought like he's given it up for this other person, and now he's going to be absorbed into the collective or whatever it is that happens, in that great beyond. I was like, beautiful. How beautiful. And then it's like, oh, you get to go back to Earth. I was like, well, all right, I guess everybody gets their happy ending or something. But I don't know.
It kind of, it was kind of like you're waiting for it to just have be at peace kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like that's where you think of like the spirits that are like that's a lot of like I don't know, mythology or so is like when a spirit doesn't fulfill something, they're not at rest.
Right.
But then I don't know, somehow they're at peace and then they pass on. They don't come back, know.
And, it seemed
and
like
so I was expecting
that, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's found his thing, he's understood, he's at peace. So it's kind of like, when you read a book or like especially when it happens to series of books, where you think someone's gonna die and some character's gonna die and then they don't, and somehow every time, all of a sudden, every time a character's in peril and you think it'd be, oh, this is really sad, but this just seems appropriate that he's gonna be, this guy's gonna die,
it is sad,
and then they keep saving them.
Right, they keep coming back. Yeah,
they keep coming back, and it's like, oh, it's
there's
just
like
lost.
A
it's
backup
like
clone of them, or there's like a magic potion or something.
It now like it loses its weight. It's like crying wolf.
You're
a lot. It's like, you're not gonna die. Then it's like not as intense, not as like, exactly, heart-wrenching or something.
You said it really well. You said it loses its weight. It there's a lot of meaning and sort of, I don't know how would you describe it? It's like a delicious kind of melancholy that, like it is sad, but it's like it's right, it feels good. But then, you're just gonna cheapen it by making it so everybody's alive and everything's fine. Well.
Yeah, I think it's like we want to think of when we pass on or when something ends for us, that there is peace in that, even though it's sad. Like I think we want to be able to think that when something ends, that it's okay and that it can be graceful and there's something new, and it's so it kind of avoids it, which makes you lacking in, well, when it does happen, it's gonna happen. Things end. People, pass on. We're getting really deep.
Yeah, welcome
into
to Droning On, the podcast
solemn.
about Pixar movie criticism, philosophy. We'll start delving into different religious systems here in a moment. Now we'll start talking politics.
But
Well,
I don't know how to get back on track after that.
I'll just do a hard cut and just reel us back into it. Speaking of color-coded music, I am hoping to talk to the guy who started that. Are you aware of the McNewby's annotated bagpipe group? McNewby's annotated bagpipe music group on Facebook.
No. Is it like newbie as you're a newbie and it's McNewby?
That's the idea.
Is that what it's supposed to be? Oh, okay.
I became aware of it a little while ago when we were working on this learning book for Garden Valley Pipe Band's pipe class, just because I was curious what other people were doing, and I didn't realize that the guy who started it is local. He's here in Utah. So I'm gonna interview him in a little bit, but that's kind of his game. He does take requests from the group, for public domain tunes and stuff, and he'll write out simple scores. But the color coding thing figures in a big way into his methodology, and
that's cool.
I just finished a book actually by Stephanie Burns called Strategies for Learning and Memorizing New Tunes. She's written two. She wrote one that was like, what was it called? Like Strategies that Improve. Now I'm gonna mess it up. She's written two bagpipe specific books so far, and I'm hoping she'll write more. But this one was it was excellent. It was so cool. And she does talk a lot about what you mentioned, the sort of structure of a tune. You know, it might look overwhelming at first, but if you can kind of color code it or dig down into it, you realize, all right, I'm actually only learning like 8 bars of music.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you look at a huge sheet and you're like, "Oh no." And even you find even if there's not a lot of, say, you don't have as much repetition as something, especially I think bagpipes, because you are limited in scale,
Yeah.
and notes that you play, and types of phrases. You're gonna have repetition of phrases that you've played. I guess you've played, like, you play like a D throat, as some other thing. You're like, oh well, I've played that before, so everything kind of connects. I mean,
Hmm.
you're not. It's nice that you're not having to play. I mean, that's something I like about bagpipes. You don't have to jump around a million different keys
Yeah.
because someone sings and their voice is a little lower. It's like annoying. It's like, you're with me or not. I'm
Right.
playing
This is
this.
what it
this
is.
is this is how it is. I like that.
Yeah, it
um,
can be kind of
yeah.
relieving. I'm sure you can relate to this in a big way, and I want to hear a little bit about your sort of performing history, where you've been all over the world and stuff playing music. But with bagpipes, with other instruments, it's like, all right, let's tune up. Oh, can you make these adjustments and stuff? With bagpipes, you just kind of walk in and you be like, hey, if you want bagpipes here, y'all have to adjust to me. Everybody follow
Yeah.
me. You want me or not? 'Cause this is what I am.
It's kind of like the cowboy of instruments. It's kind of like, take me as I am.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
just gonna go for it.
Oh, you like A440, huh? How about
Yeah.
476?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so tell me about that, Erin. You
Oh,
do
yeah.
play bagpipes. Some of the folks in Garden Valley Pipe Band will know you. You started learning with the band about the same time. I'm thinking like Steve, who's still with the band, about the same
Yeah.
time as he did. So some folks will know
Yeah.
you, some folks might not. You've also played with Wasatch District. Did you play with any other groups before you moved out to Washington?
I tried to. I ended up moving to Arizona.
Hmm.
Um,
Did you find a band out there?
and I did. I was, meeting up. I met up a couple times. Um, and I ended up not
Where,
being able to, just for traveling and work. I was working full time in Mesa, living in Phoenix,
and was the group
and
like in Flagstaff or something? So you just had to like go all over the place.
well, I was jumping into the Phoenix pipe band.
Ah, yeah.
I'm gonna say it right. It's been a while, but they actually met quite a bit farther southeast, so past Mesa down. Like, that's at least the I think it was grade 5 or 4. I think it was a grade 4 band.
Mm.
I think. But they met a little different area. I was thinking Phoenix, but they were meeting down south, and so just with traveling and and just newly married, and it was just a little hectic.
Yeah.
So I ended up pittering out, and I was just I was bummed, but I had a lot of other stuff going on, and
Well,
yeah, and that
seasons
was my
of life. I think we all go through that. You kind
yeah.
of have to vary how much activity you can take on in the piping world and
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, and that was my first time living in like an apartment since I started piping. Before I was
Oh
living
yeah,
in,
practice
at
becomes
home.
a whole different.
Yeah, it just everything kind of changed on me, and
Yeah.
I think I had trouble adapting.
That's when you start shopping for
Um,
electronic bagpipes.
exactly, and I actually had gotten a I think it's a Flagerstruff.
Nobody knows how to
Fagerstrom?
pronounce it. We
I
all
don't
know. We
how
all
to
know
say
what you
it.
mean. Nobody knows how to say it. Go on. Yeah.
I got one of those earlier before I moved and played with that a little bit, but it's just not, it's not the same. It's not as satisfying. It's like
Yeah.
eating a salad as opposed to like a steak. It just wasn't as tasty for me to listen to
Yeah.
myself.
It's definitely a different experience. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So what?
So-
Either start me with when you started learning bagpipes, like when you first became interested and thought I'm going to start to learn bagpipes, and work me backward through your musical career, or take me all the way back to your childhood. And when did you encounter music, and how did that lead up to bagpipes? And take all the time you want.
Okay. Well, I won't be long-winded. I think I'll start earlier and
Yeah.
then come forward, just because it all kind of connects. So my family's pretty creative. We're very artistic.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
And
you do have a famous brother, the famous volleyball player.
yes. Yep. Yeah, so my older brother, he's the oldest, and he is an Olympian, and he's a professional volleyball player. Casey Patterson, CPAT. You can follow him on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. He's got some fun stuff.
Throw some handles in the show notes or something.
Yeah, but he's pretty fun. He's got 4 kids and does some pretty funny videos with them. But yeah, so I have a professional volleyball player brother. I have an older sister who has pretty much written the book for costume design for animation and game. And so she's super artistic, drawing wise, and then I have a younger sister, and that's me, and then I have a younger sister who is a photographer, really good artist as well, really good like kind of graphic design art stuff.
So this is multi-generational too, isn't it? Isn't your dad, or isn't somebody like some sort of fancy carpenter or builder of some kind or designer?
Yeah, my dad does custom furniture, and he's done that forever. Worked pretty much self-employed for most of my life, and he builds like thousands and tens of thousands of dollars like table and kitchens and libraries that have backlit onyx and gold leaf and hand relief carving. So he's the very artistic with wood and mediums like that. So he's.
And I don't want to throw you off your story, but does having grown up with your dad doing that kind of work, does that affect your luthiering work?
I started working with him since I was probably 10. No, child labor.
Yeah, breaking all kinds of laws.
Yeah, that's actually how I earned my first instrument. I'd putty and sand and stuff for him. But yeah, so I'd like to hang out with my dad. Ever since I was little, I'd like to hang out with him in the garage. Because he worked at home, which was really nice. We just have a garage or a shop or a barn that he'd convert into his wood shop. And I just hang out there and just hang out with my dad. I love doing that. And then I just gradually got into, he'd just teach me as he went. He's a teaching person. And whenever he's doing anything, he'll just like, oh, did you know what this is? Or do you know, give me a little problem to solve. How would you do that?
Yeah.
And so I'm very familiar with wood, and pretty much grew up, working with him. That's how I earned my money to buy my first instrument, which was my violin.
Oh, you started on
violin.
violin.
I call it, the fiddle. When I tell people, and people go, oh, you play the violin? I'm like, oh, I play the fiddle. It's very different. It's not, what I play in my church, it's not really appropriate for a normal Sunday church meeting.
You play the corrupted violin.
Yes, the fiddle is of the devil violin.
Right, I believe I remember hearing a story about someone in Georgia playing one of those.
Yeah, and it just gets more devilish as I don't practice.
It's becoming more and more satanic all the time.
But yeah, so I started on the fiddle, and then got together with like a group of ladies that that played music together. My aunt was in, and she's like, you should come out. And they were called the Boney Mountain Mamas.
That's a fun name.
Yeah, we're in Thousand Oaks or Newbury Park, California, and I grew up in Ventura County, so Southern California girl, no tan, all freckles, no surfing. So I started playing violin, fiddle with them, and there was a lady there that had a mandolin. I'd never seen a mandolin before, even though my grandpa had played it. So I have a musical grandpa. And my mom's like, oh, did you see? And I was probably like, I think 11 or 12. She's like, oh, this lady over here, she plays what's called the mandolin, and it's tuned like the violin, but it has frets. I'm like, ooh, sign me up.
I've always
the whole fretless thing.
Yeah, is that such a relief for someone going from violin to mandolin? Just be like, oh, finally, I don't have to worry so much about my finger position.
Yeah. So left hand wise, or if depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed.
Right, maybe call it
your fretting hand.
Hand?
Yeah, Yeah, it's so much. Oh, that was just so much nicer for me.
Yeah.
And but right hand very different. So like
Sure, sure.
whole going from bowing to picking. To me, going from bowing to picking was easier than bowing. Bowing is just yeah, it's not my favorite. There's not like for mandolin. There's pretty much a kind of a rule that you can break. You'll end up breaking a lot, but like that really just makes everything smooth. Downbeats are down picks, upbeats are up picks. However you divide 8 notes, 60 notes, and so on. So there was just like, I didn't have to think about it, figured it out, and that was
Pretty
nice.
straightforward stuff, huh?
Yeah. So mandolin, yeah, I like the frets, and I like the rhythm. I like percussive
Yeah.
stuff. So
And once you
yeah,
get
so
that fancy mandolin tremolo down, that's pretty much all the tricks, right? You got your
yeah,
full set of tools.
yeah, yep. And talking about tremolo, it's just pretty much a shiver. just think you're really cold, and everyone's like, "Oh, how do you do tremolo?" You just learn how to
the
relax and
secret.
shiver at the same time. But
You know,
yeah, so
my,
it went from
my wife's grandpa was a really great guitar player. He like classic, like he's from another century. He grew up the child of poor sharecroppers in the South, and played guitar at midnight in a cotton shack with some neighbor kids and stuff. And he's passed away now, but he would always play the classic like I don't know, Tennessee Box Top. He loved Johnny Cash, stuff like that. But as he got older, his he had some kind of nerve thing happening, where he'd just shake all the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what we would do is we'd put double-sided tape on a pick for him, and then whatever pace his arm was shaking that day would determine the rhythm
Tempo.
or the tempo of the songs we would play, and he'd just let his hand
Nice.
go.
There you go. There you go. Just play down, put down some chords, and then you just.
Yeah, we should have put
Just-
him on a
yeah.
mandolin. We didn't really think to do it. He was on his own guitar.
That was
but it would
perfect. It
work.
was perfect of evolution.
Yeah. Well, go on.
Cool.
Go
Yeah.
on.
So, oh yeah. Yeah. So I went, got onto the mandolin, and for that, I shoveled manure to get my mandolin. We had a neighbor with 2 horses, so fed the horses,
Was it
shoveled
worth it?
manure, and yes,
Is this the
it was
mandolin you still
worth
play to
it.
this day, or have you moved up?
Oh
since then?
no, no.
It was just a
I had
starter,
a
huh?
yeah. I bought it's we had a little catalog. I don't know where we got the catalog, but that's where I got my violin. Actually, pretty good quality. Looking back and having worked in music stores and repaired violins for years, the violin I got for like just under $200 is probably now worth like equivalent of the quality. It'd be like going out and buying a $500 violin. So
No, very nice.
pretty good, yeah. So I'm like, and that one I keep around, and I think it'd be good to have to hand down because I play my grandpa's fiddle now. But my mandolin is a K mandolin, big chunky monster mandolin. It's like a guitar builder built one. Just looking at the picture and not, it's just huge.
Just cut the neck a little shorter. And put it on a small
Yeah,
body.
and the neck was thick, and it would just be so big. And I remember my hand hurting. I'm like, oh, my hand hurts. I like mandolin, but my hand hurts, and it
Yeah.
just doesn't sound that great. And then one lady in the band that I was playing in, Boney Man Mamas, and she just like felt really bad for me. Apparently, it's like, oh, that mandolin. Oh, so she's like, here, play my. I think she had an Alvarez. So she's like, you can borrow my Alvarez while you save up for another mandolin, which I was
Did it
telling
just
them
blow
I
your
was doing.
mind getting on a
Oh
different
my
instrument?
gosh. Oh, it was night and day. All of a sudden I went from like, I guess I play the violin and I also play some mandolin to, yeah, I play the mandolin and I kind of play violin.
Right.
But mandolin's my thing.
And how old were you at this point? Were you a young teenager going out there as a kid? Or?
I think I was probably, by that time I was probably 13
Yeah.
when she lent me that. Or maybe I was younger. I was probably 12 still. Yeah, because we moved later. Moved around a lot, but mostly between California and Utah.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that was amazing. And then we ended up our house. We lived in a farmhouse we rented on this romaine lettuce farm, and ended up flooding. Our house flooded, the shop flooded, and we ended up moving. And we got some insurance money, and my mom's like, "You are getting a mandolin." I was like,
nice.
"Yeah!" So
Really nice.
that was the That was like a
Best
awesome
flood
thing.
ever.
Best flood ever. So I ended up getting going down to McCabe's in Santa Monica, and I got a Collings mandolin. They're out of Austin, Texas, and it's a beautiful mandolin. That's the one I play now and love it. So
I think I'm not super tapped into the mandolin world, but I feel like don't they also make some high-end octave mandolins? Are they known for octave mandolins? I feel like I've seen that name around.
Collings, they might.
Maybe
I
I'm
think.
wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of
I
something
haven't
else.
looked in the market recently.
Yeah.
Octave mandolins are that's one where I bought one, a Trinity one just for fun, and it's my finger. I'm a tall person. My fingers are long, and it's hard to play.
Yeah.
I like my tiny little mandolin. I just feel more comfortable. But yeah, Collings they're great. They make beautiful guitars as well, and cases and stuff. So, yeah. So I got my mandolin, and I became from then on. I was like, I'm a mandolinist.
Yeah.
That's what I do. But I kept collecting instruments. So I picked up the guitar after that. I have a Martin guitar that was on 50% off on sale, and so I got my Martin guitar. And then I got a acoustic electric guitar bass, which I no longer have. Again, too big for my hand.
Yeah.
Even, and then picked up plectrum banjo, tenor banjo, that were my grandpa's and great grandpa's. And then I picked up
Is plectrum? That's help me remember. Is that reference to a maker of banjo or in reference to a playing style of banjo?
So they call this banjo plectrum. Plectrum just means pick. So that's what you play with a plectrum, which is just pick for short. So it's a 4-string. It's a long neck. As opposed to, so the tenor banjo is what you'll see in like Dixieland bands or Irish banjo. They'll tune them different from American to Irish. So Irish will be more like a mandolin, GDAE, and American will be CGDA, like a mandola or a viola. Which works well for the keys that you're playing. In American Dixieland stuff, everything is like in B flat and F, so it just fits better. Anyways, I could
Carry on.
tangents. But plectrum, you actually play it more chordally, so it's more melodies within chords. However you can't think of the word, but however you structure the chord.
It's not so much then the Scruggs pickin' style.
Correct.
It's
yeah.
Also,
so
is it also not the what do they call it? The kind of banjo I've always wanted to learn to play, and now I can't think of what
like
it's called.
claw hammer.
Yeah, claw hammer. Oh,
Yeah.
I love listening to claw hammer banjo.
Yeah, claw hammer is awesome. I've got a couple friends, Alex and Jordan, that play really good claw hammer.
Yeah.
I tried a little bit. Jordan taught me. I can play Cripple Creek or Old Joe Clark. That's about it.
Oh, and what's the name of the guy, the local guy who does blackberry banjos? He plays claw hammer.
What's
his name? Is it Jeremy? No.
Is it Thomas?
Oh, it's Thomas. Yeah, it's Thomas.
Thomas. Can't remember his last name.
I feel
Thomas.
so sure that maybe, and I'm sure it's been done at some point, but I feel like claw hammer banjo and bagpipes, like small pipes, they go together. The droning idea, and I've been begging Thomas over there at Blackberry to hang out with me and jam with me for years. I haven't been able to entice him yet. Someday.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because the banjo's tuned in an open chord.
Right.
Typically G, but you can just capo to an A easily.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5-string banjo is the more iconic one that you see and you'll hear in TV shows when someone has to run really fast and it's silly and it'll be it's like, of course they go to banjo.
Yep.
Banjo's not silly, people, it's serious. No.
Oh, sure.
But plectrum and tenor are usually played with a flat pick, and then 5-string banjo is either finger picks or claw hammer, so like back of your nails and stuff.
So you picked up a plectrum banjo. That was, you say, your grandpa's?
Yeah, my grandpa. And so my grandpa played. He played. I guess there was Slim, Curly, and Tex, and he was Slim.
Those are great names. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he played in a band in Missouri, and then when he moved to California, and I guess he got to play with the Sons of the Pioneers a few times, some other famous people of the time, and he played mainly fiddle, and I grew up thinking that he played bluegrass, but he actually played more like Texas swing, which
gotcha.
is got a little more class to it, and
How dare you?
have his.
I'm like, someone out there's offended right now.
I was like, everything's a lie. I thought he played one other subgenre, and he was playing a different subgenre. Right. Like they're so different. But yeah, so there's a lot of string talk, but pretty much a lot of I like to play. I would be drawn to instruments that were a little eclectic and that less people were playing, so I kind of felt a little special,
Oh, well, I can relate to that. I'm sure all bagpipers can relate to that. You're among friends here.
What? Like, why do I turn my nose down to piano? I'm like, everyone plays piano. I go, oh, because if I played, I wouldn't be that great in comparison.
I sometimes refer to this as security in obscurity.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah. So when people say that I'm the best mandolinist they've ever met, it's usually because I'm the only mandolinist they've ever met. I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, I wonder how many bagpipers do play some guitar, some piano, some more common instruments, but just never really bring it up because, it's safer to just be known as, the piper in the family, the piper in the neighborhood, etc.
Yeah, there's more mystique to it, too.
Absolutely. And nobody can judge you, really. Unless you get on YouTube by accident, and then you will get judged very harshly and painfully.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of what drew me to the bagpipes. I'd heard them before, but it didn't really compute that I could play them. I think because I played stringed instruments. My sister played the flute, and I was like, oh, wind instruments have to deal with spit. And just thinking about spit would make me gag. I was like, ew. But I played so a mandolin, once I got into college, I played at BYU Provo, and my mandolin teacher happened to be the director for the folk music at BYU, Mark Geslison.
I'm a big fan of his work. I've been listening to Mark Geslison for years. He's amazing.
He's got some awesome albums,
really great albums,
like hymn albums and stuff, and he's played in a bunch of bands, and remember he played in one I think it was, let's say it wrong, Lincoln Highway, I think.
One of the first banjo books that I bought was his collection of Celtic tunes too.
Oh yeah, and his books, that was those were the books I played with for forever. He has published by Mel Bay. They're great. I think they're still called 50 tunes. There's mandolin, banjo, bass, fiddle. Those are great books.
I think I made him uncomfortable. I got to meet him thanks to you, actually. I came to help with your group, the Molly and the Mineshaft, one night at a Christmas concert, and he was there setting up some sound equipment. And I'd never seen a picture of him, having known his name and his music for years and years. And so he mentioned something about how his daughter had previously played with you. I was like, oh, does that mean that you're Mark Geslison? And he was like, yes. And immediately I was like, just a starstruck fanboy. Like, can I shake your hand, sir?
It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, I think I made him uncomfortable. I think I fawned over him for a moment, shook his hand, and then he I think I need to go over there. I was like, okay, bye.
Folk musicians are uncomfortable with being known because you're like, what?
Yeah, I don't think I asked him to sign any body parts or anything, so I don't think it got too weird, but honestly, I don't remember exactly.
Okay, so this reminds me of, do you know, have you heard of the banjo player Noam McKelney?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so he plays with Punch Brothers and Chris Thiele.
Plus he's hilarious.
And so it makes me think of the videos that he's done. He has one on, I guess, the site Funny or Die. And he's on there, and it has Steve Martin on there, Ed Helms, all these other, and then famous musicians, and so he has this thing about becoming famous on the banjo, like all of a sudden he becomes like this typical celebrity going off the deep end because
Right.
he's famous on the banjo. And he's like looking out the window and he's like, oh, these paparazzi, oh, there's that paparazzi again. It's like a lady walking her dog. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't help, just dealing with all this.
Being banjo famous.
Yeah, exactly. So that made me think of
Yeah.
oh, it's pop. They just keep walking. They just keep trying to.
Yeah. That's I love the way he plays, but also he's just a funny guy. Just any video
Yeah.
he's always been funny. Yeah.
So dry that you're just
Yeah,
like, wait,
very,
what?
Very dry. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the obscure instrument. So when I was at BYU, we would do these Christmas performances, and they would always have a bagpiper. And it was Eric Abbott came and would play, and he was a student, and he was in the folk ensemble. He played with the Celtic band at BYU, and he was telling me about how you have a practice chanter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first thing that made me think, oh, maybe I could do this because I don't have to purchase a $2,000 instrument and just
Right.
know
Lower
that
barrier
to realize
eventually.
I'd fail or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Since I'd never played a wind instrument, I had no idea how I would do. And so I was like, oh, okay. So got a practice chanter, and that's what started that. And I just got into listening to Gordon Duncan. I got hooked on, and
Of course.
I loved his, like, the belly dancer is the coolest song
Yeah.
ever
This is great.
because there's bagpipe doing some funky scale. I love that. I really like kind of Middle Eastern scales. It just has this mystique about it.
Yeah.
And then the rhythm, I love weird rhythms, like weird counts to where you're like, where are they going? But then you can get hooked onto it, but it's still like, what is it?
Yeah.
And then in that tune they have I think either guitar or sitar or something doing the
Yeah,
backup, and it is
something
just
like
so
that.
cool. Yeah, so those two together, it was just like, oh my gosh, a stringed instrument meeting bagpipes. All of a sudden, like, I had this like connection, like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
I Googled bagpipe lessons, and Garden Valley popped up. Like, take
Alright.
lessons. I'm like, perfect. And I could go do that. And it was free, and that was perfect for my budget. And,
That's exactly what I was looking
and
for.
my commitment to just see how it goes.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
picked it
so
up quick too, probably because of your musical background. But do you remember how long it was between when you first started on the practice chanter and when you got onto the set of pipes?
I
'Cause I
think
feel like you were competing like the next summer.
I was. Yeah. So I jumped on. I joined you guys out in the park, and it was probably like, I think it was middle of summer, something like that. I got the chanter for Christmas, so maybe it was earlier. But once you guys started, meeting outside, at some point I came out and started learning, and you were my first teacher.
Hey.
You're teaching me my fingering, and yeah, and
And
I had.
obviously I didn't mess it up so badly that you gave up.
No.
So
you
that's
you
a
really
success.
No, yeah, and so I think I bought my pipes. It was it was around fall or so. So it might have been like, I've been playing chanter for 3 months. I remember I was anxious to get on pipes. Once I started figuring things out, I was like, okay, I want to get bagpipes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too long, and I got the pipes, but the getting the pipes and playing them, that was probably a long stretch, and that was the most discouraging for me because my lungs or whatever.
Oh, yeah, this was your first
It was
foray
so
into
hard.
wind music, huh?
Yeah, it was so hard, and I remember going on forums, on the bagpipe
Bob
forums
Dunsire?
and stuff. Yeah, and I was just reading people's stories. I'm like, am I the only one? I just wanted to hear other people and their struggles. I was just really into reading about other people starting off brand new.
It's important to know that
And-
you're not the only one, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it took me, like, I have to say, it took me like 2-3 months to get to where I could play a couple notes tied together It was that
Yeah.
bad. Also, like the cheek muscles, like my mouth muscles,
Yeah. Yeah.
we were just, I'm used to smiling. I'm not used to
Scrunching it
playing a
all up.
wind instrument, scrunching it up and everything.
Yeah.
So, getting past the drooling, instantly mouth tired and drooling.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, great.
Once those lips start getting numb, things can get real wet real fast.
Yes. So that was hard, but I was like, I'd try every day, but I really I could have pushed harder to exercise, but I was just so discouraged. I was like, oh, maybe it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I remember coming to um a it was a band practice at Garden Valley when I was in grade 5. I just joined, and we were just starting, and we're just playing on our practice chanters, and we're out in the hallway, and people were talking. Oh yeah, when I started, I just got right into it, and I played a tune. I'm like, what the heck? So some people are just they've just got it, and but
Yeah.
I had to.
Well, I
felt
know
like
that
I had to.
like not long before you started, we also had like another rapid success story is Emily, who had I think she'd previously played clarinet and or saxophone, and so I do think and she also like I think that she like started learning and like the next summer was actually leading the grade 5 band into a competition circle, so like also learned very quickly.
Oh wow.
But I do think that some of that
Wow.
she had the cheek muscles already and stuff like that, but.
Yeah.
But
And I think, I mean,
we don't want anyone to be discouraged. Is the thing. Like some of us, it takes us a very long time to even get from chanter to bagpipes. The
Yeah.
point is that it's a individual struggle, but in all cases, it is a struggle
Yes.
to some degree.
Yeah, and I mean, it really wasn't. I'm like, I really can't complain. It wasn't that long, but for me, going from playing when I played one string instrument, once I could cross one string instrument onto another one, it was already like 80% there. Like, because there are
Right.
just
Yeah,
so many
and
things
you're
are
coming
similar.
from a place
Like,
of pretty high proficiency on those instruments when you started on the bagpipes.
yeah, yeah, I'm used to playing, and you kind of forget and you kind of lose perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound like this sounds like I'm, all big
Don't
headed
worry.
or anything.
We've had some very
I don't want
pompous
to sound
people
like
on
that.
the show already, so don't even worry. I'm here every time, so you're safe.
But yeah, so like, I was just used to when I'd learn a new instrument that it would already be like, okay, I'm just adapting a little bit. And this
Yeah,
was like an entirely new thing from it was just so different. And so it was hard for me. I was like, what? This isn't how it's supposed to be. It's usually different. That's
Why
not how
is
it
it this
usually
easy?
goes. Yeah, I'm an instrument person. This is what I do, and so that was really good. I have to say my my journey, my learning, like how I grew in my learning and my practicing with bagpipes has helped my mandolin and my teaching so much more. Because it's just, I think anytime you go through a struggle and overcome hurdles, it's good for you and it's good for your teaching, especially because you have all kinds of students with different learning styles, different,
Yeah.
thinking differently, playing differently. So it's really helped. And then me as well, just me on my mandolin,
Yeah.
and how I think about things.
Yeah, I
So
wouldn't,
yeah.
I wouldn't pretend like I'm wise or anything, but having, like, I've been playing pipes for like 15 years now, and every once in a while, when I get a new student or something, or when my students are transitioning from chanter to bagpipes, I try sometimes to like pull out a song and play it on my chanter, but left-handed. Switch my hands around.
Oh,
Just when I'm
yes.
by myself, or try to play my pipes on the wrong shoulder, just to remind myself,
Yeah.
like, this is very difficult and awkward. Just to remember,
Yes.
like, be patient. Walk through them. We walk through it with them. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's really yeah. My little sister, had me do that once. She's like, I'm like, oh, I was just down on myself. I don't feel like I'm really progressing as much. I just couldn't, you just can't see because something's so gradual. It's
Yeah.
hard to remember where you came from.
Absolutely.
And she's like, play your mandolin play it left-handed. And I'm trying to play it, and all of a sudden, I look like a beginner student. I'm like, oh, this is what they look like. Like, why can't they just get their hand in the right position? What's wrong? And all of a sudden it's just like, oh my goodness, this is really awkward and hard. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, okay. So yeah, same thing. Try left-handed. And then all of a sudden you go, okay, I'm really am a lot better than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, flip your hands around and try to do a D throw, and then you'll feel
Oh
way
my
better about yourself.
gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's kind of how I got into piping. And yeah, and like I said, I joined up with Garden Valley's your lessons, your classes, and then I started taking private lessons from Diana.
oh right,
'Cause
yeah.
I heard, yeah, she's like, oh, she teaches private lessons. I'm like, oh, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for one-on-one lessons,
Yeah.
and she
And
just
Diana's
lived.
a great teacher, right?
Yeah, she's awesome. She's super good, and um, yeah, really helped me get my technique clean. I was really grateful for that because playing an instrument, or if you've played an instrument before, you realize you go, oh, I should have really slowed down and tried to get my technique good. And that's how
Yeah.
when I played fiddle and mandolin, I just really jumped in. I'm like, I want to play Orange Blossom Special. I want to play like
Yeah.
not well, but I just want to play the fast tunes. I want to play it quick. I want to play it right now. Just show me the shortcut. I'll do it. And when I went into bagpipes, I really had the mindset of I want to do it right. And even if that's slow, even if it's like super boring and I'm going to drill something until you know, until my sister in the next room just goes nuts.
Yeah.
It was funny how much she would walk around, she'd start singing like humming a tune. I'm like,
yeah.
how do you know that song? She's like, how do I not know that song? Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to use my discipline, I could be mature.
I'm gonna be adult about
And
this instrument.
I'm gonna be so adult about this and slow down.
Do you feel like that actually
And-
might be part of it? Is that like maybe with a lot of these other instruments or genres of instruments, you picked them up when you were a kid, but this one you came to, as an older person, and so maybe that affected the way you approached it.
Yeah, I think it's because because I lump all the stringed instruments together as the same beginning, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, Bagpipes really made you start from scratch. It kind of makes me think of, so my dad he speaks Spanish, and he's really good at speaking Spanish, just fluent. And I remember he met with, we're hanging out with Kate, my brother, and playing volleyball, and he had some teammates when he was playing at BYU that were from, that spoke Portuguese. And he's listening to them. He's like, "Oh, it's like Spanish, but it's not. But
Like
then
Spanish
I
with a
can hear
French
some
accent.
things." But and so it was like more frustrating than it's like,
If
oh, if it was a different
like Polish or something.
yeah. So it's kind of like when you learn something that's similar to what you're trying to learn, it's hard to detach, and it's
yeah.
hard if you have certain habits. So that's what I've learned with my string instruments. The habits cross over a lot. Because it's very similar. But with the bagpipes, I'm starting fresh with no bad habits.
Yeah.
Let's see how long I can last.
Yeah, how long you can go without
And that
picking up
was,
bad habits.
yeah. I mean, they're gonna happen anyways. But it was kind of like a fresh slate for me. It was
Yeah.
like a do-over, and I wanted to do over and see what I really wanted to discover how I could practice and learn better for me.
Yeah.
How I could discipline myself to have more success in it. But I have to say, when you're a kid, it's not that you just don't have the patience, is that that you have different interests. I mean, the interest for you that drives you to play is different a little
yeah.
bit. And I think perspective, you gain more perspective as you're older because you practice. And as a kid, if you have a really crummy practice, you're like, I'm gonna quit. I'm done. This isn't for me. I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm just not physically able to play this instrument. Maybe it's just not. I just don't have it. I can't.
Yeah.
And then after you watch a musician like there's a old banjo player for Mountain Heart. I can't remember his name. But he's not in there currently. I think he used to play with them. And he has no fingers. He just has a thumb on his left hand.
Oh.
And so he plays with his
Barry?
Barry, maybe. Yes, that sounds right. Yeah,
I'm
and he was like
Googling
the
it right
MC
now.
for the
I've
band.
seen videos of this guy. I think it was Barry. But carry on with your
Yeah.
story. If I find
Yeah.
out, I will report.
Yeah. And yeah, so he plays just with the main knuckles on his hand and his thumb. That's the only like digit he has on his left hand. And so he puts his banjo down kind of low, and he plays with just pretty much those little knuckle nubs and his thumb, and you would not know the difference between him playing and someone else with all 5 digits on their hand. And he's won Banjo Player of the Year
Yeah.
at least one time.
Yeah,
And it just kind of makes
If anyone wants to look
yes,
this guy up and get inspired, Barry Abernathy.
yeah, it makes you go, okay, I have all the digits on my hand. I'm grateful for that. I shouldn't complain, and
Right.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Like what am I? What he like?
The
I'm
insuperable
like I just
barriers
think,
that you were perceiving suddenly become
yeah,
perfectly superable.
yeah. And I would go, if I were him, I don't think I would have the thought that I could do it,
Yeah, the guts to
and
even
pushing
try,
through.
huh?
Yeah, because I go like, oh, if it doesn't turn out, and it's just like I'm practicing, but nothing's changing. Will it ever change?
Yeah.
And oh man, that kind of person is so admirable to me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have so much that I have, that I kind of get spoiled and don't realize and don't try to push myself to do things that are hard,
Yeah.
um, and just to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. So that was kind of like, if he can play the banjo, I can do something. Like I
Yeah.
might have to adapt, and you'll come across things that you'll realize, oh, this is a little odd for me, and adapt. And
Yeah,
but
I mean, it could be simple little things like figuring out how a burl's gonna work for you personally and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Or how to get over your
yeah.
fear of spit, which is a
Yeah.
necessary thing for a bagpiper. For sure.
That was big for me.
Yep, that's a real thing. Absolutely.
Like,
Gotta just get some red pipes, right, and just never go near a pipe band again. Now it has, in the same way that sort of your string instruments sort of started rolling into each other, has delving into the Highland bagpipe. Are you starting to eyeball other kinds of bagpipes or similar instruments?
Yeah. So I was looking into kitchen pipes.
Mm-hmm.
I still like the scale. I like that there's that limited scale. It's kind of like a relief to me.
Yeah.
So
that's actually,
when it comes to
tell me more about that. Do you feel like it's a relief in that, like, I mean, to what degree do you feel like it's limiting, and to what degree do you think it's like actually contributing to the creativity required to play the instrument?
okay, so this has an analogy, a tied similarity.
Yeah.
I'm using words.
Yeah. Tell me in your finest English.
So very similar to how I started. I do instrument repair. I'm not actively at the moment, but I started out building guitars for Cordoba Guitars in California,
Oh.
And got into there because I'd done woodworking, so that brought me in. And they wanted somebody who was familiar with tools and woodworking, but sorry, I had a call that I had to
Oh, no worries.
cancel.
And if you need
Someone's
to
calling
take
me.
one, if somebody calls you back and you need to take it, I can always cut it out in post, so no problem.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So anyway, so I got into building guitars, and they do classical Spanish style guitars, and it was like the little Master Series shop that they had. So that was the shop they had in the U.S. Other ones they had in China, they had in Spain and Mexico, but this one was like their top end, and they had these four Master Series guitars, which are like replicas of these famous guitars, like Torres and like the builders, Torres, Rodriguez, Hauser, and so on. Anyway, so I started building, and that was really, really cool. But something I'd hear people doing instrument repair. They say, "Oh, I started out building guitars, and now I do repair." And I'm like, "Oh, repair just seems like such a bummer. Like you have to fix things, and it's hairy and messy, and it's not perfect."
Yeah.
And so some years later, I was moving around and ended up going, well, I need a job. I can do repairs. I've got a lot of background in it. I just need to learn some more things, and I can do repairs. After I got into that, I realized repairs are way better than building, for the reason because you already have limitations. You have an instrument that's coming in. You have a problem. You have a timeline that it needs to be fixed by. You have somebody that, depending on if they have a limited amount of money, what they can spend on repairing it, and they have a gig.
Yeah. Well, especially if they're a musician, that's always going to be a factor, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, how much are you going to spend on it? How long do you need this instrument to last? Is this your instrument? This is like your main instrument, or is this something that you're just playing until you buy a new one, so you don't really want to put a ton of money into it? Right. So all these factors, this is like I kick into my MacGyver mode. And I go, okay, how can I do this? How can I fix that with, and so
with like rubber bands and
so
paper clips.
Yeah, I feel like I can actually be creative and use my creativity to solve problems with, I got magnets, I have this tape, and how I can get this wire over here, and it's I don't know, it's just a lot more brain stimulating than, okay, here's some perfect wood, and here's all the tools that you need, and build something. And it's just like,
here's the exact schematic diagram. Do it exactly this way as well, right?
Yeah. So either that, where all you could do is either feel like you match up to it, or fail at making it perfect, and that perfection thing it kind of stalls me. Like, if I can't make it perfect, then I'm not going to touch it, because I'll just mess it up. You're just like, I can't. Of course I can't. I'm not a machine.
Yeah,
you should have a machine make it. Sure. If you want it perfect, you should have a machine. And so you just kind of go, I guess I'm not really needed, and why even bother? But then when it comes to repairs, there's so much more. It's like, you actually need a human brain. You can't just put it into a CNC and have it repair a violin. It doesn't know what's wrong with it. It doesn't, it just lets me be able to be creative and feel like, it needs me. This instrument needs me, not a machine.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Like you uniquely, you in particular, your set of skills, your experience, your hands particularly.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
So I think when it comes to instruments, so between bagpipes, Highland bagpipes, to where you have a limited scale, to say even just mandolin, and go, okay, write a piece of music, and I go, well, if I don't write something that Chris Thiele would play, then it's not even worth it. It's not even gonna be, and it's just kind of like, you get that negative, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't even try, because it's not gonna be to this awesome level to wow people. Why would I bother? Right. Which is such a bad mindset. Yeah. I don't think that now. Everybody's got a unique voice now. So.
But we've all anyway, felt that at times. Like, you listen to Gordon Duncan and you just think, I guess I'll throw my bagpipes in the fire now.
Yeah.
Like, why?
It's like, no one needs me. It's already been done. It's like the thing that right? And, I guess to go off on another, I don't know if I've finished that thought of limitation helping, but it lets you relax and like, hey, it's okay. There's only a few things you can do anyway, so just don't even worry. Okay, I just felt more comfortable around that. But that thought of the value of your music, even though you're not a Gordon Duncan or you're not a Chris Thiele or Noel Pikelny, that's something that I've gradually come to with my mandolin playing, my performing, because I love performing. That's like my favorite thing. That's my
you
my
do it for
spark.
The claps, huh?
Yeah, I did for the claps. Like, so yeah, when you were talking in your habits
with
podcast
Swan.
with Swan,
I
was like, you're like, I might be big-headed, but I do it for this reason. I'm like, that's why I do it.
Yeah, we'll be honest about it here. I started doing community theater when I was like 10 years old because I like it when people watch me. I especially like it when they clap for me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll keep it short. A little side tangent
No, hop around all you want.
I finished my thought.
Yeah.
I when I was at BYU, I took I needed like another credit or something, and my mom was like, "Oh, they have this performance psychology class. You should try that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." So I sign up, and in the class, there's a lot of people in there that are, the concert pianists or the violists or the, jazz and something, all these very, very structured art forms and very kind of serious, a little more serious atmosphere of music than I'm used to.
Right.
And
Black
they're all
tie
in there
event
trying to get
kind of
over.
stuff.
Yes, yeah. And they're trying to get over their nerves of not screwing up in the middle of some massive piece or
Right.
something.
It goes blank, and all you can do is go back to like measure 3 and start again, or measure 1 even.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'd probably be in their shoes if I was playing that kind of music, but I don't like that. So I did. Anyway, so they're in there for these like, oh, I'm just so terrified to walk on stage and all this stuff. And I'm there going like, I would stand on my head and do the stupidest thing on stage if you want me to. I have like no, I don't care. Like I'll do the most ridiculous thing, embarrass myself, and I'll enjoy it because people are laughing.
Yep.
And it was kind of funny doing the final.
I can relate to that entirely.
And people are, going up saying, "I've learned so much that I can do this now, and I've overcome my fear." And I had to go up and go, "Oh shoot, what can I say? I have to make something up." Like, what was that? I'm now not afraid to.
You stand up and you're like, I've been looking forward to standing up in front of all of you all semester because this is what I love to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, I like getting a reaction, a positive reaction from people. It's fun. I like to make people laugh.
I'm sure you still get plenty of joy, sitting in your living room, just figuring a tune out or just playing around. But like you're always kind of have a performance in mind. Always kind of thinking like, I like to play off the crowd. How will this be received? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much how. That's how I sit whenever I need to come up with like an arrangement of something. Say if it's on the mandolin. I arrange for reaction to the crowd.
I see.
That's, I mean, like I could play something technically correct, but what's the use of that time? If I have like 30 seconds of play time, why would I do something that is just notes? I want to do something that's surprising.
Yeah. That's
witty. That's like, something that hits you and what's going on? And, yeah, so so talking about not playing in a band and especially this shutdown time to where people aren't being able to play with groups as they usually do depending on where you live and stuff.
Yeah,
but
even if you can get together, getting in front of a crowd is impossible, of course.
Yeah, performing for people, and for me right now it's kind of like, how far away from Seattle am I? That doesn't, not as practical. Yeah. It was really hard for me to get motivated to practice. And that's something that I've been having a hard time. That's why, I listened to that habits one. I'm like, oh, I need that. How do I get myself to do something I'm not motivated to do? Because I don't have a performance. I don't have a competition. Yeah. And I don't have an audience. Even if it's small, like performing for church parties and stuff like that. Right. That's what gets me up and practicing. Is like, oh, I want to show somebody that I care about this instrument, that it's cool. I want to introduce somebody to the pipes. Maybe they'll want to play, and maybe I can talk to them about it and how excited I am, and show them what they miss by, if they're just listening to the radio all day, they're missing like so much. Mm-hmm. There's all this other music out there, and so that's been hard for me. Honestly, that's been pretty hard.
Yeah,
so I don't know what
the social aspect of music is important.
Yeah. So I'm curious what if you don't have a performance in mind, how do you stay practicing when you're not motivated for that reward at the end for performance?
Yeah, that's because I'm with you 100%. I'm very, very motivated by getting in front of people and feeling good about myself. And I think that can be okay. It also can, I think we probably all know that it can border into and enter into unhealthy territory if you're sort of
Yeah.
expediting your own happiness. So then, like, if nobody reacts positively to me, I have no worth, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I also, like, ever since I was pretty young, I've always really enjoyed like recording stuff too. Like I hopped on GarageBand before I knew what I was doing. Before I ever got like a MIDI keyboard, I was clicking the digital keyboard on the screen with a mouse to put something together. And so I definitely get motivated by that kind of stuff too. And with bagpipes, I do find that, like, it's big-headed of me, but anytime I get them out, even in my backyard, I do imagine that I have an audience of neighbors, and I also imagine that they are enjoying it, which probably is not accurate all the time, but I just go ahead and imagine it anyway. So I guess that's one nice thing about bagpipes. It sometimes it's a curse, but sometimes it can be nice that they are all acoustic and so extremely loud that you can kind of think to yourself,
what?
I'll give my neighbors a little show.
Yeah, you know what? That's kind of true, because even though you can't see them, they're hearing it. Like,
Yep.
There's
Yeah,
no way they
definitely
don't
are, yeah.
hear it. So that kind of does make you like, maybe I made someone smile. Maybe I made them mad. Maybe
Right, yeah.
I made somebody laugh or something.
There
like,
are also...
changed up their monotonous.
I've never been able to attend. There are some of these small piping workshops that happen, of course, on the other side of the Atlantic, and but there are also some that happen along the East Coast that I've been aware of for years, but have never been able to attend. But during COVID, they've all gone online. And so if any pipers listening to this kind of want a way to get together and play with some folks, I've found those to be so much fun. And, usually the format is like you sign up for it and they send you a set list, some recordings, and like, here are the tunes we're going to play through together. Here's the music, just kind of get ready. And then everybody just kind of hops on a Zoom call, and really you mute up. But it's way more fun than I thought it would be. At first I thought, like, oh, this will be lame, because you have to mute up so that you don't have the lag, But you have this person usually who's like kind of a high profile player, and basically you end up getting to play a duet with them. Only you can hear it, of course. You can hear them, you can hear yourself, but I found that to be really fun lately. And so if that's a useful thing to think about, usually with these you can hop in with a tin whistle or something too, or just with your practice chanter, because you can usually get it pretty close to the concert pitch.
Yeah, that's... I have to say, add on to the performing thing. When it comes to performing, it's more playing solo is actually fairly new to me. So that's bagpipes brought the newness of solo playing, and it was very uncomfortable. that was like, well, again, it can only go downhill from here.
Yeah,
I don't know why I think
right?
that.
You can't hide when you stand there all by yourself with a set of bagpipes.
Yeah, and I'm so used to playing with groups, but that's that playing with somebody. Like, I miss that. Like, I'll put up. I started doing some tunes that I was practicing and learning. Find recordings on YouTube and play with them.
Oh yeah.
But I have to say, there's something with live. There's something with somebody.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like a recording is just soulless, and it's just not there anymore. And I just love that feeling that you get when you're in your pipe band and you're playing and you're looking at the pipe major's hands and you're right in sync with them, and you're listening, and everybody's just like, there's a point to where you just like, everybody's right on it and they're together.
Yes.
And you just feel like you guys, as like we just like made something epic, and those notes, even if it just happened just very briefly, it's just something amazing. There's this unifying synergy thing that all of a sudden it's that you're greater than the sum of your parts. That's totally, I just love that. So playing, just being able to sit down and play with somebody, that kind of got me to thinking about starting like a chanter group out here, where there's not, no pipe bands within 3 hours from where I live, and over at the snowy Cascades,
Right.
and I'm like, what? Maybe I should just, start like you guys were doing.
You
starting
should.
a little,
You absolutely should.
Free class, come, and I'll just hang out under the picnic, in the picnic table, and whoever shows up between this time and this time, I'm just going to be there. And so that's still something that I want to do once snow stops, and then once we can do that and COVID,
Right.
um, I just I just really hunger for playing and doing something together as a unifying people
Yeah.
that and really that's and how you mentioned having friends, making friends while playing music. That's my best friends are all from playing music together,
Hmm.
playing in a band. And whether I know I'm socially awkward and an introvert, so, but it's really, music has really facilitated us, helped me have a social life.
Yeah, well, it kind
I
of can
mean,
be
I'd
a
probably
good
have a
crutch to
social life,
lean on,
but
right? It gives you something like, well, we're all here to do this thing, so we can focus on that, and then the friendship can
yeah,
happen organically alongside it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, I don't feel silly just hanging out with people and not having anything to say. Like, oh, we're here for a thing. We're
Yeah.
working on a thing together, and then it's not, you've got a task that
Yeah,
you're
so then
just
there's
doing,
never an
and then
awkward silence. There's always something that you're doing.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's where music's really enriched my life. I'd say probably the biggest way it's enriched it is the people I've met.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, the performing and the thrill I get is great, but those are short. They last as
Yes.
long as you go home, and then, or if you have another gig and it goes, wah, and
Hmm.
people
Yeah.
are like,
They can.
"What? What
They've
was
got about as
that?"
much a chance of it going very poorly as going very well.
Yeah, exactly. Playing to an empty room, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, and but really, it's the people you meet and what you learn about, like, who you are, who you want to be, and how you interact with people. It's really like, yeah, it's it's been a big blessing in my life. So
Yeah, I agree with you.
music.
I wonder to what degree this COVID situation will have a lot of people thinking similar thoughts, and maybe particularly people in the pipe band world, kind of recognizing, because you have a moment to sit back and kind of think, now, why do I do this? Why have I been doing this?
Mhm.
Why do I put time and money into
Mhm.
this? What is it that I really miss? And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, just the other night, my wife asked me, because I'm kind of I'm a dabbler when it comes to music, like I own a
Mhm.
lot of instruments and play none of them very well. And
Yeah. No,
she asked
that's
me, she's like,
I
what,
get.
if you had to pick one thing to do, what would it be? And I was like,
Uh,
because of sort of just range, I if it was
mhm.
just about music, I'd probably choose something other than the bagpipes. But
Uh-huh.
honestly, like if I really had to pick just one thing, it would be Highland bagpipes. Absolutely. And if for no other reason, like the music is compelling. I do love it, but there is
Uh-huh.
something magic about standing in a circle and doing something in sync with other humans. I
Mhm.
suspect, I don't know much about the psychology behind it, but I suspect that this is the case for synchronized swimmers and sports
Mhm.
people and stuff. Things that I
Yeah.
have no vocabulary
Athletes. Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
That it's just this magical experience that, like, yeah, I don't think I would have realized if it weren't for COVID that the music is a necessary
Mhm.
facilitator for it, but it's actually maybe
Mhm.
not the core of the magic.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I totally agree with that. I thought that too. When I'm thinking about, like, oh, if I had to move somewhere, where would I want to be? And I have to say, like, a bluegrass band kind of came in second in my head
Mm.
of, you know what's around there, because of that, because it's a genre that has the structure that helps facilitate that. It
Mm.
has, um where you can meet up, because you have these tunes, and you have these competitions, and you have, um um kind of, the methodology and everything transferring over to where if you meet another piper,
Mm.
odds are that they're going to know similar tunes, and they're going to, have played in competitions before, or they've gone to Highland game. You have a
Yeah.
lot more immediately connecting with somebody, where folk music, I mean, bluegrass is very loose.
Yeah, kind of more
It's very
wide
it's very
open.
loose. I would say, yeah, it's very, like, people just teaching themselves and writing their own music and not even knowing what old Joe Clark is sometimes, and so, um, it's harder to find somebody that you can lock into and mesh with. It's a
Yeah.
little more eclectic, which is good,
Oh, yeah,
but
also
it
good, absolutely.
doesn't. Yeah, yeah. It's great, but it's like if you want to go somewhere and know you'll have, it's like move somewhere and know you'll have friends. It sounds
Yeah.
like,
What an
but it
interesting
kind of
point.
is a little bit.
Cause like I've heard some criticism of the pipe band world before, which I think is justified to some degree. That like because of its
Mm-hmm.
military heritage, because of its strict adherence to sort of perceived tradition, etc., it can be restricting, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
sometimes takes a very long time to change in good ways as well. But the
Mm-hmm.
good
Mm-hmm.
flip side to that, of course, is that when you when you have something that's like so clearly defined, be it the military history, the tradition, so it informs the way that pipe bands function from the internal organization, having pipe majors,
Mm-hmm.
drum sergeants, etc. The instruments themselves, how they tune, who makes them, how you set them up, the
Yeah.
music itself, the musical forms, the competitions, all of this actually it all comes together as like a vehicle for preservation, and it's like
Yeah.
maybe the best, like all over the world. You could go to Italy, you could go to Scotland, you could go to any part of the United States, you go to Mexico City, like anywhere in the world. If you got a competitive Highland pipe band, you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be, what's going on. It's a system
Yeah.
that's really well sort of preserved in that way.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Structure is not, you know, is not to be poo-pooed at. Like that's something that I really, um, you really need, and that's something I was kind of missing um, in bluegrass kind of stuff, and even in teaching. I was kind of jealous of, um, classical or jazz or band teachers that get together for, they'll get together for a teaching convention and they'll learn,
Yeah.
they'll share like, oh, here's this great method and this and this. And when it comes to, teaching mandolin, I'm like trying to find a book, I pretty much ended
Right.
up compiling my own arsenal of scales and this and that, but it's so hard to find, and like finding something for the mandolin
Mm.
that I know they have that for violin, and it's just so hard to find
Yeah, those sort of
some. There's not.
more like classical forms of music and teaching. They have sort of a
Yeah,
shared common language and curriculum and things like that.
yeah, and so I have to say I really believe in, it's good to customize. I mean, that's what private lessons are,
Yeah.
one on one, that the teacher helps you, grow, but having some structure there, um, is really helpful. I was kind of jealous. I'm like, oh man, but bagpipes are so nice. It makes me go, oh, maybe I should work really hard on bagpipes and just teach bagpipes now on. Because
Hey.
it's,
Yeah.
I don't have to hand write out a bunch of different kinds of scales every day. I'm like, oh, it's
Right.
exhausting. Like I
Yeah.
have to hand write so much stuff because it's just, I can't find it. It's just not out there. I don't know. So
Well, you'd be in a
it's a
unique
good
position,
balance.
Aaron, because you're a good piper, but you also started learning fairly recently, so your learning experience is in good recent memory, which I think is very important for any instructor. But then, of course, you also have experience teaching other
Mm.
stuff. You got to start this group, Aaron. You got to start this.
You know.
What Central Washington, Western Washington, whatever, wherever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, North Central Washington Chanter Club, and then we'll see where it goes from
Yeah.
there.
Well, have I
Just,
kept you too
yeah.
long? Have you got
Oh,
duties to do over there?
oh, well, yeah, there's a little 3-month old that I'm sure my husband would like to tag team and hand off.
Sheesh. Those kids can be really demanding.
She's cute. Yeah, our little Darby.
Little
So,
Darby, huh?
yeah.
Does she look like a
Yeah.
piper or a drummer? Because she's got to be one or the other, right?
I know. That's what, what her hands look like. What her
Yeah.
pinkies like.
You lay down a chanter on one side of the room and a mallet on the other side. Just be like, which way is she gonna go?
Oh yeah, yeah. You have those like which one they choose will be there.
Yep.
They'll just
Let's
crawl
start
towards
determining
it.
a
Whatever they
child's
chew,
destiny now.
yeah. Whatever they start slobbering on is their
That's right.
destiny. You're
Yeah,
like,
I've tried
geez.
that. I've tried that with all my kids, and so far they
Oh
all
yeah.
have really not liked the bagpipes at all, and so I'm a little disappointed. Here's hoping
It's
as they
scary.
grow.
Like, what is that thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Some octopus monster.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
listen, I would love to talk again. I won't force you to stay with me any longer. I'll find a spot to gracefully fade out, either in previous conversation, or is there anything that you'd like to go out on, whether it's related to the conversation we've had so far or not, whether it's, words of wisdom, thoughts, anything like that? And no pressure, because I can also back
yeah.
it up and fade it out, whatever's nice.
I've one quick thought about practicing. I think a lot about practicing. If you have a really, I have to say, if you have a really crappy practice, don't worry, tomorrow will probably be better. So usually for me, it's every other. Every other practice is crappy, and every other one is like, oh, that was actually kind of good. So if it's bad, just no pressure. Put it down. Pick it up again tomorrow. So that's my word of wisdom.
Beautiful.